Welcome to the Kristy Ella podcast. There's something many of us quietly come to recognize over time. And by midlife, it can settle into the body, in the hesitation before we speak, in the apology that comes a little too quickly. Many of you may have silently heard this gentle message, often an unspoken echo. Be easy to carry. And little by little, it can turn into what I think of as the disappearing rule. The subtle habit of taking up less space in your own life. This is Gina's story. She is 48.
I did not wake up one morning and decide to disappear. It happened the way these things usually happen, gradually, respectfully, in ways that looked like love. I was the one who remembered birthdays, softened hard conversations, and kept the emotional temperature in the room from getting too high. I knew who needed encouragement, who needed space, who needed a gentler answer than the honest one. I became very skilled at being a place where everyone else could rest. And for a long time, I thought that was the same as being fulfilled. I told myself I was lucky. My life was full. People counted on me. I was needed. There is a kind of praise women receive for that. Not always in words, but in expectation. I am solid. I can handle it. I will understand. I won't make this about myself. So I learned not to. I learned to swallow small disappointments before they could become real. I called exhaustion gratitude, loneliness, independence, self-abandonment, maturity. If I wanted more, I edited the sentence before it reached my mouth. If I was hurt, I explained the other person's side. If I was proud, I dimmed it down. If I changed, I tried to do it quietly. And because life was busy, and because I was capable, and because I knew how to endure, I didn't notice at first what all that shrinking was costing me. But the body notices, the spirit notices. Mine noticed in small, quiet ways. I would stand in the kitchen after everyone had gone to bed and feel strangely absent, as if I had lived the whole day without actually arriving in it. I would hear myself say yes, while something deeper in me went still. I would look in the mirror and recognize everything about the woman I saw, and still wonder, very quietly, where I had gone. The truth is, I had mistaken disappearing for being loved. I had mistaken usefulness for belonging. I had mistaken being untroubled on the outside for being whole on the inside. And then one afternoon, something small happened. I was at the grocery store with Brad. We weren't talking about anything important. Just dinner, schedules, the usual rhythm of a shared life. We stopped near the produce section, trying to decide what to make. And like I always did, I said, "Whatever you want is fine."
You say that a lot.
I let out a small laugh. Well, I'm just easy. It's not a big deal.
I know, but I don't actually know what you want.
I felt something in me tighten. I do know what I want, I said, a little quicker than I meant to. I felt caught off guard. I just don't need to make everything about me. There was a pause.
Wanting something doesn't make it about you. It just makes it yours.
I didn't answer, because for a moment, I couldn't. We moved on, finished shopping, loaded the car. Brad never said another word about it. Nothing dramatic happened, but something had already shifted. The next afternoon, I found myself at the same parking lot just sitting in my car. The engine was off, but I hadn't moved. My hands were still on the steering wheel. I felt like I was frozen. And for a moment, it felt like my whole life had paused with me. And the question came, when was the last time you asked yourself what you wanted and stayed long enough to hear the answer? I couldn't answer, not because I had no desires, but because I had gotten so used to translating myself into what was manageable, reasonable, and convenient, that I no longer spoke my own language fluently. I just started to cry uncontrollably for what seemed like an hour. So it began there. Not with a grand reinvention, not with a bold announcement, just with honesty. I started noticing every time I dismissed myself in real time. Every time I said, "It's fine," when it wasn't. Every time I said, "Whatever works," when I had a preference. Every time I made my own joy negotiable. I began to return in inches. And at first, it felt unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. The first time someone asked what I wanted, I almost said it automatically. "Whatever you want is fine." But I heard it. That line. Brad's voice.
Wanting something doesn't make it about you. It just makes it yours.
And this time, I paused, I stayed, and I answered. Not perfectly, not confidently, but honestly. And that was new. I said, "I would love that." I said, "That does not work for me." I said, "I need more time." I said, "I have changed." And maybe most importantly, I stopped treating my own needs like an inconvenience I had to justify. Not everyone loved it. Some people were confused by the version of me that no longer volunteered to disappear. And I learned something important in that season. When you stop abandoning yourself, anyone who benefited from your absence may call it selfishness. That does not make it selfish. It may simply mean they were more comfortable with the version of you who asked for less. And I no longer wanted to be loved for how little space I took up. I wanted to be loved as a whole person. And slowly, life began to shift. Not because the world transformed, but because I returned. The day I stopped following the disappearing rule was not the day I became someone else. It was the day I finally stopped leaving.
There comes a point in a woman's life when what once worked no longer feels like truth. Gina felt this, not because she is failing, but because she is no longer willing to live outside of herself. And that moment, quiet as it is, changes everything. Because once she sees the pattern, once she feels the cost of her own absence, something in her begins to turn back, not outward, inward. Back toward the place she left in small, careful ways. Back towards the voice that learned to wait. Back towards the life that has been asking patiently to include. This return is not loud. It does not announce itself. It happens in subtle shifts, where something is no longer swallowed, where something is no longer postponed, where something is finally allowed to exist without being reduced. If Gina's story felt familiar to you, I hope it will lead you in the direction you were meant to go. Every second Friday, I write another Unwritten Rule We Whisper. Thank you for joining me today for the Kristy Ella podcast. I hope I left you feeling inspired. Let me know in the comments. I'll see you in 2 weeks.